All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Measly Few Podcast, episode 8, I think. We have an illustrious, amazing guest today, the best beard in the goddamn, mustache/goatee combo in the damn game, Mr. Baron Von Brunk, joining us here today at the Measly Few headquarters. My name is Random Kandor. Why don't the rest of our hosts introduce themselves?
We got NekoTyto today.
Hello.
And that's it. That's everybody. Good night, everybody. that podcast is over.
Young dripping Briss. And Baron is a very famous YouTube megastar who makes Lego custom builds and has been quite successful doing this in addition to his day job. He has been a part of the Mumkey Discord for quite some time. In fact, he is a moderator. Yeah, he does it for free, ladies and gentlemen. But that's how I personally got acquainted with him, and he's always a riot and makes some good quality content. So thank you so much for coming on, Baron.
Hey kids, it's TV's Baron Von Brunk.
Hey everybody, Baron Von Brunk here.
That's exactly like him. I thought he was here. Baron, why don't you tell us a little bit about your early life and what kind of drew you to Lego in the first place, and then maybe how you got into it.
Oh yeah, well, of course I was a child of the 80s, being somebody who's currently in their late 30s right now. I'm your straight up millennial. Grew up in the 80s, consumerist culture. Grew up in a very, very, absolutely dirt poor family outside of rural Pennsylvania. The city of Lancaster, to be honest. Parents were both really poor, working class. Grew up in a really bad house, but I had a lot of toys. Transformers, Lego, Ghostbusters, Ninja Turtles, you name it. And, Lego is obviously, I guess I would say the core, obviously in addition to Transformers and G.I. Joe, Ghostbusters, etc. And it's just been a hobby of mine that I've maintained since my childhood and even into my teenage years, even during the dark years of Bionicle and Harry Potter themes.
I remember Bionicles. I actually kind of liked Bionicles when I was a kid, though.
Well,
Bionicle... you were poor, right?
Yeah, well, okay, my mom was...
How cheap were Legos back then? Because they're mad expensive now.
Well, they were expensive back then, too. It was a weird situation. Like, we weren't like absolute destitute. We were like lower, I would say lower middle class. Like if I showed you pictures, if I showed you the pictures of the house we grew up in, it was like an absolute like shack, like in a really bad inner city area. My mom was the manager at a McDonald's. My dad he worked at a machine shop, and then on the weekends he was in the Army, in the National Guard. Before my parents divorced.
I remember the video that you showed us one time of your dad working in the shop. It reminds me of the shop that I work at. It was very wholesome. I showed all the guys.
Yeah, he still has it on his YouTube channel.
Just a true blue-collar worker.
Yeah, it was actually back in 1988, I believe it was. I was maybe like 4 years old. My father rented a camcorder. This is back, obviously, before cell phone cameras. Back in those days, it was like this really huge, big-ass camera that you put a cassette tape into, like an actual VHS tape.
And you put it on your shoulder and everything?
Yeah, like an over-the-shoulder camera. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, back in those days, those things cost like several grand. So you would rent them. Yeah, like you would rent them from like Radio Shack. I don't know the whole details behind it, but I believe one of my father's friends, owned one, or he rented it from Radio Shack, and they brought it to work one day, and they just recorded themselves in the machine shop for like 20 minutes.
That's awesome.
Back when you could still smoke inside the shop.
Yeah, it starts off with my dad's using an engine lathe, and then he just puts a cigarette in his mouth while he's like operating equipment. There's a guy welding, and they're all smoking and like drinking old school Pepsi cans and eating McDonald's that's served in styrofoam containers.
Yeah, isn't all that shit like mad flammable? Or is that just film?
Yeah, but that doesn't count back then. That's okay.
I mean,
it's all good back then.
I got a trash can right next to my welding station. I've only set it on fire maybe 10 times. That's not too bad.
Just
that's
10
like
times.
Semi-intentional.
And I also keep my snacks in a toolbox right next over there. I mean, the spatter that might get in there. I mean, that's just fiber. That's fine.
Yeah. You keep your snacks right next to the cans of gasoline and unlit fireworks.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's totally fine. I haven't had any problems. I don't know about you guys. I'm still alive.
It's sometimes you don't even wear your welding mask. You just put on some sunglasses.
I mean, there is a technique for that. There is actually a technique for that.
Oh God.
I could talk about it. I don't want to because this is about Baron. This is not about me and my welding
we can talk
shit.
about it later. But Baron, why don't do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I'm actually the middle child. I have an older sister who's about 1.5 years older than me, and I have a younger sister who's the baby of the family. She's about 5 years younger than me. She's actually closer to Rusty Cage's age.
True. Were either of them like into Lego as well, or were you the first one? Like, or did you bond with your dad over?
Well, yes and no. Meaning, like when I was maybe like 2 or 3, my older sister and I would both my parents just got us like one really big bucket of pieces, and we would just kind of play together. You know, we were like grade school children, and we would just build random things. I
have to ask the big question that's on everyone's mind: were they actual Lego or were they Mega Bloks?
Oh, it was actual Lego. Like I actually had both. I did have no, it wasn't Mega Bloks. It was back in the 80s. There was a rival brand that did, for a very brief period, try to rival with Lego, and they actually made it was like a precursor to Mega Bloks. It was made by Tyco, which is a toy company, and they actually had like an entire promotional series about it. But my parents actually got me both.
Was it Better Blocks?
No. I forget. I'll have to look into it again. But I do remember the commercials for that. This is like 1987, so it's like kind of a foggy memory. But there actually was like an actual campaign to rival with Lego, and they made the exact same thing, but it was made with Tyco brand.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Tyco, they made video games back then, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I know them from.
Tyco or Tyto? Because Tyco is different. Okay.
Tyco.
Yeah, Tyto's me.
Yeah, but my sister and I used to play with them together. I had a younger sister. She was a baby at the time, but when she got a little bit older, she used to play with Lego too, but not as much as me. Like she had her own sets, and I'd play with mine as well. You know, we had different rooms growing up. We were all in the video games and stuff like that equally. But I was the one who just kind of like I stuck with it even into my adult years.
Yeah, what do you think like drew you to stay with it? Because nowadays I think like a lot of like even like Pokemon trading card games and stuff, like there's a whole culture about staying with the games that you grew up with. But I don't think back in the 90s or like 2000s there was really like that culture, at least in the mainstream set. Like, let me just keep.
To be honest, there was, for me anyway, personally, there actually was kind of a dark age with Lego, not just for me, but just in general. Around towards the late 90s, like around the time that I was in my early teens, the company was actually on the verge of bankruptcy, believe it or not, and they almost had to liquidate all their assets. Long story short, they actually started producing licensed themes for the first time in the 90s, which was Star Wars. There were Star Wars, Harry Potter, and Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
They had to do that to keep afloat. And number 2 they came out with was Bionicle, which is like they pretty much had to rebrand and reshape a bunch of different things in order to stay afloat. And that's actually what saved the company by the early 2000s. So during that period of like 2000 through like 2003, like when I was in high school, like during that period, I still had Lego. I still play with it in my spare time just for fun, but I wasn't like super into it. And a lot of the sets that came out with at the time were kind of lame, and I didn't really start to get back into it again to take it seriously until like the late 2000s, around the time of the rise of Facebook and social media, in which case I used to take pictures of my stuff and share it with my friends, and then it's kind of exploded from there.
Nice. And do you ever feel like there was like pressure on you to like not play with it because those are for kids? Like, why are you doing that? Let's do drugs and party and.
No, not really. Like, hang out with my friends, and they would just come over like, oh, cool, what are you building? And they just like look at the stuff I'm working on. Because the people I hung out with, they're mostly dorks and stuff too. Like, my friends were all like big video game nerds. They were big into Pokemon gaming, and a lot of them were into like Magic cards, like Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh. Back when I was a teenager, so they was just kind of the same thing, but that was just my thing personally.
Do you have a particular work piece that you remember where it was the big epiphanous moment where like I can take this and make content, like I can create videos and I can go into like some kind of a direction with this where I can be really popular?
I actually do have several instances like that I refer to as my quote unquote spiritual journeys. There's, if you really want to go back far enough, there's actually a specific story I could tell you. It's kind of a long rabbit hole of a story, but I'm not going to get too far into it. But it was kind of, it might even derail the conversation if I get too far.
No, bro. This is about you, bro. This is literally what
this is actually about you, and I would want to know. That's why I'm asking.
So this is actually a story that I want to do an animation on this just because it's such a bizarre story. It was the summer of 1993. So I was 8 years old, about to turn 9. I was between 2nd and 3rd grade. I was staying up all night one day watching TV. My mom was at work, I think, and we had a babysitter. He was one of my mom's coworkers, and we were watching Star Wars. And I was playing Super Mario Brothers 3, and I don't know what the hell happened, but somehow, like, it's almost like metaphorically speaking, like a bolt of lightning struck my head. Okay, so I was like watching Star Wars, playing Nintendo, and I just had like this craziest idea ever. Like I had this kind of crazy spiritual journey where I decided like I wanted to build an airship, like a big wooden battleship that can fly. Because I was watching all the spaceships in Star Wars, and I was watching all the airships in Mario, and it's kind of like both of them kind of exploded into my head. And then I was like building like big airships from Lego, and I was like drawing pictures of them, and I was like, I would go outside and try to steal lumber from lumber yards and try to build ships in my backyard.
So you want to build ships, like literal ships as well?
So I tried to make a mock-up of this ship from Lego, and then I drew concept art for it, and I tried to like actually build a real one in my backyard. And I was telling all the kids at school that like the next month when school started, that like, okay, I'm gonna build this big wooden airship, and we're gonna fly around, and it's gonna be like Star Wars, but meets like Nintendo, but also meets Lego. It's gonna be crazy.
And that's awesome.
Like I refer to that moment as my first quote unquote spiritual journey in that sense. But I've had multiple other instances like that too. Like later in high school, when I wanted to build I tried to build a hovercraft when I was a teenager that didn't really work out, and I entered a contest. Red Bull used to have a contest annually called the Flugtag, where you built.
Oh yeah,
the Flugtag. Yeah, I entered that back in 2003, and I got rejected, and they actually mailed me a letter for a rejection letter.
It's kind of nice, I guess.
Yeah, we're basically
Did you frame it?
I think my parents threw it out.
Look
but
at
it
me
was
now, Dad.
yeah, it's a contest where you have to build homemade aircraft and fly them off a pier into the water.
Yeah.
See if you can make it fly.
None of them ever worked.
Yeah, none of them ever worked.
It's just it
But I
was
took it seriously.
Jackass in real life, essentially.
Yeah,
Are these
I
like
took,
kites or something?
pretty much.
No.
Yeah. They're like hang gliders made out of cardboard. You can have to like push them off.
Yeah.
And fly.
Oh, Jesus Christ! It
Sometimes
sounds
it's
too
just
heavy.
Sometimes it's
Cardboard?
just a shopping cart with like 2x4s nailed to it. It was great.
Some of them actually do fly. Like there was one in California back in like 2011 where they flew for like 20 feet. It was like a big flying chicken. But so long story short, so I saw a commercial for that when I was a teenager, and I was like, I'm going to do this. And I actually conceptualized my own flying vessel. I made blueprints for it and everything. I entered the contest, paid the entry fee and everything, and then they came back to me and said, nope, your idea is rejected. Here's a free book. So.
Do you
What was
think
the
it was
free
because
book?
of
There's a book on airplanes.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think it was because your age, or was it just the design, you think?
Probably the design. I mean, it's one of those things we're looking back in retrospect, like it wouldn't have, like, honestly, it needed to happen because at the time I was living back in Pennsylvania, the contest was actually in New York City of all places. I was 18, just out of high school, didn't have a car, didn't have any money, only had a small handful of friends because a lot of them were going off to college. And you needed like a crew of like a minimum of 5 people in order to help your plane fly. Because you need to have people like throw your plane off the balcony, not the balcony, because you can't have the pier, because there's no engine, so you have to have like 5 people like push your aircraft and make it fly, and then you have to kind of glide. I had maybe like 2 friends that could help me out max. None of them had a car, so it's like, well, just looking back at it now, 20 years later, it's like that was so stupid. Like, how the hell could I have like got in a van, drove it all the way to New York City, assembled an aircraft along the pier, and cobbled up 5 of my friends and have them push it. It's logistically it wouldn't have made any sense.
I bet you're glad you still tried though.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I always look back and laugh, but then it's like, this is all pre-YouTube, so I would have had a fleeting moment of glory, but it's because every now and then I would feel like a total chode about it. I'd be like, I could have been a contender, but whatever. Mm-hmm. I got my book. So.
Yeah. Do you still have the book?
It's at my mom's house. Well, actually, kind of not to get off topic again, but my mom actually passed away not too long ago, and
I'm sorry.
Well, before she died, she was in very, very poor health, and the house that I grew up in as a kid and a teenager, that's the house that, well, she didn't die there. She died in Florida. The house is in a very terrible condition. So actually, about a month ago, I went back with my older sister, actually my little sister, to help clear out the house and to try to recover a bunch of things like family photos and things like that. I didn't find the book anywhere, but it was somewhere in the basement. But like the basement's all covered in mold now, so we actually were cleaning it out a little bit. But if I go back to my mom's house, probably in about a month or so, we might clean out some more and try to find it.
And there's some nice foreshadowing about the New York City too. It seemed so far away, but look at you now.
Yeah. Well, actually, believe it or not, back in those days, because I'm actually essentially doing right now what I planned on doing as a teenager, but it just took a long time to accomplish. When I was about 17 years old, my actual plan as an adult, like I actually wanted to do this for real, like to actually grow up and do this. My list of my criteria list as a teenager was to graduate high school, move to a very large city, be it in New York or California, and learn how to become a graphic designer, work for a huge company, and just become successful, just doing that. On a more detailed level, though, my actual plan, my actual verbatim plan as an 18-year-old high school senior was to, upon graduation, move to California, move to Los Angeles, get a job at Comcast, and become a production assistant for G4 Studios back in the days of old G4 TV. Because back in the early 2000s, I was a prominent member of the G4 TV message board. I was friends with the moderators. I was friends with the TV hosts. I used to post a lot. They used to share my stuff on the TV show.
Damn.
There might be a record of that somewhere. Like if somebody has like old VHS archives, they actually might have mentioned Baron Von Brunk on TV a couple of times, like during the live chat. This is all back in like 2003, 2004, and I took it very, very seriously.
So what was that? It was before Attack of the Show.
Well, because I actually remember that too. What happened is they merged. Tech TV got bought out because Tech TV was satellite, G4 was cable. They got bought out and they merged both of them together. They called it G4 Tech TV, and there was a huge shitstorm because back in the day there was a huge schism between the G4 people and the Tech TV people. But they hated each other and they complained and said they ruined it. And there was people would fight on the message board and just all sorts of drama.
I remember G4 on cable. What network was that on though? Was that on like Spike?
No. Well, Spike was actually Spike started off as TNN. It was like a car racing channel.
Yeah.
And Spike TV became its own thing, and I think G4 then tried to become what Spike was. Spike was like a general a generic TV for men, so it was all like guy type shows.
What was it? USA Network first? Or
no, USA is still around. USA is owned by CBS, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, it's been probably about 7 years since I've seen cable television.
Oh, same here. Like literally the only times I ever actually have watched any sort of TV show whatsoever, on like any sort of major network, probably since the 2000s anyway, quite literally, has been when I'm like waiting like in the lobby of like a doctor's office or like Pep Boys, and there's a TV playing and I can't change it. That's the only time.
Yeah.
Same here. Like when I was in the hospital, pretty much how I spent my time was just okay, what channel is the Golden Girls? And because I know I can get some consistent television if I just find the channel that has the Golden Girls. Okay, it's just gonna be nothing but Golden Girls. Great, cool, awesome. Some consistency for once.
Yeah, that's smart.
I always just put on Cartoon Network.
Like at my office, they have TVs all along the walls everywhere. They're all tuned to like CNN and whatever garbage boomers watch, like MSNBC, Bloomberg, and you can't change them. So they're always on. You can't turn them off. And my gym is like that too at my apartment building. There's always a TV on, but it's always like ESPN, and it's just background noise for me. I don't care about sports ball.
Well, speaking of what Nico was saying about the cartoons, was there any like cartoon? You said the Super Mario game, but were there any cartoons that like also kind of shaped were core to your personality growing up?
Oh, definitely. Well, see, there's different eras of cartoons. I would say, like, especially if Toot were on this podcast, she could actually verify this as well. Back in the 80s, there's a huge difference between 80s and 90s cartoons. 80s cartoons were meant to sell toys. They were basically long commercials. They were Transformers, Care Bear, Voltron, Silverhawks, G.I. Joe, Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters. The list goes on. Back in the 90s, there was a huge thing for creator-driven shows. So people like John Kay came about, Seth MacFarlane came about, Matt Groening came about. There were shows where the networks were
Ben
young.
Udlin.
The networks were young and hungry, and they said, okay, we'll let you do whatever you want to do. So you have full creative control. Obviously you can't swear and show any pornographic material, but you can pretty much do what you want to aside from that. So you had Ren and Stimpy, Doug, Real Monsters, Rocko's Modern Life, Simpsons, Futurama, King of the Hill, Beavis and Butthead, South Park. They were all birthed during that era. Yeah, that was a cool show. I used to watch that.
Oh, that was a great show.
But they were all birthed during that era, which was like a new experimental thing where we can have everything was creator driven, everything was new and experimental, and some of them didn't last very long.
Yeah, I think that the genre people call it is gross out cartoons, because that was like the main theme. It was like these gross Just not
yeah,
kind of like, yeah.
I remember vividly, my grandma absolutely hated Nickelodeon cartoons. I remember vividly. I was probably about 9 years old. She actually threatened to send a letter to Nickelodeon back in like '94. I would say we were watching Rocko's Modern Life, and something happened. And she flipped out and she's like, "I'm going to send a letter to those Nickelodeon people."
The OG Karen.
And it's funny, yeah, mind you, this is pre-internet, by the way, too. So how in the hell was some 7-year-old lady going to like randomly contact Viacom? You know, like.
Yeah.
I don't know if I talked about this on the podcast before, but I sent when I was in second grade. This was probably 1997 or 1998. I sent letters to Cartoon Planet back when it was still airing.
I remember that. I used to watch Cartoon Planet. I have the Space Ghost albums on CD.
I never got those, but I know that they exist, and I would like to have them.
Oh yeah, I was like 13, 14 at the time. I used to buy them. Yeah, Cartoon Planet. I wanted to send them stuff too. Back when Space Ghost Coast to Coast was big. I remember watching that like back in the late '90s. They used to have like Brack and Zorak they would read letters. I mailed a letter to Lego when I was about 11 years old. I came up with a product suggestion, and they wrote back to me and said that, "Thank you for your concern, but our product suggestions come from a research and development team, not from customers. But here's a free catalog," and they just sent me a catalog in the mail.
That's kind of dickish to an 11-year-old.
It's probably like something they sent to literally everyone. I can't imagine how much influx of like suggestions they get.
Oh yeah, believe it, because this is back in like '95, and I came up with one product suggestion, and my idea was that if they said yes, then the floodgates would be open. Because I designed my own Lego video game when I was like 11. I designed all the levels for it. I came up with all the bad guys, everything, and I had the whole thing like soup to nuts conceptualized. And I was actually going to say, okay, well if they like this first suggestion, then if they reply back and say yes, then the floodgates are now open. I'll say, hey guys, here's an idea for a new Sega Genesis game that I came up with. Or actually at the time, this is like when PS1 came out. So I was like, here's a new video game that I came up with. It's a Lego video game. Isn't that exciting? Yes, it is.
Yeah. It sounds like, Baron, you're like, there's a big theme from this early life, and that you're very before the curve. You're really you have your finger on the pulse. You had the G4 stuff before it blew up with like Olivia Munn and Attack of the Show and all that stuff. You're already plugged in there. You wanted to be a graphic designer before most people even knew what that was. Like, it sounded like you really had...
Well, I mean, not to sound like a boomer, but graphic design has been around since like the 60s. Back in those days, they would use like an X-Acto knife. They would expose the film and...
It's been around. I think it started actually, like the concept of it started in Soviet Russia. And
the censor.
Yeah, it was Soviet Russia, but it was already a thing even before that, because it's literally just advertisements.
Well, in terms for digital design, that was a thing that started during the 80s. They had the thing.
Oh yeah.
They called them paint boxes. They would have special computers that were built just for doing graphics, and they would make.
But it's by no means as mainstream as it is now in terms of like a common thing a high school kid would be like.
Oh yeah, well now everybody wants to do it. Back when I was a kid, because actually when I first started using Photoshop, that was in the early 2000s. My best friend at the time, his father was the graphic designer for a local magazine, and we lived in a small town in rural PA. This was like one of the few magazines there, and his dad had a job there doing the graphics for it was like a monthly catalog for coupons and stuff. And so he let me use Photoshop at his house once, and after that he got me a copy of it, and I used to use it every day back in high school. So I just got really good at it.
Do you still talk to that guy?
Oh yeah, like we're still actually I might give him a plug, but he has his own YouTube channel. He has a very small audience. He has a local indie band, and they do their own sketches. I'm not trying to say he's trying to copy off of Tim and Eric, but that's kind of what. But I'll be blunt with you. That's kind of what he's doing. Like he's actually the same age as me. He's actually a month younger than me. We both went to elementary school together, and then we graduated together too. He has a YouTube channel. He records like green screen sketches and stuff at his house with him, his wife, and like one of his friends, and they record the music for it. It's actually it's well made. Some of it's kind of funny, but a lot of it's just like it seems almost like it's like Adult Swim type stuff. But it's but you can tell that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to make his own like viral videos. Like some of it's actually pretty good. Some of it's kind of but you can tell like you can seriously tell he's just trying to copy off of like not $1 Million Extreme, but like Adult Swim type stuff.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. It's a very popular thing to have.
He has like a couple thousand subscribers. His videos get like a couple hundred views or so. It's one of those like it is what it is type things. It's I might give him a shout out later. I mean we've done collaborations before in the past, like a long time ago. But sort of circling back to the whole thing about being an innovator or like doing things before it got famous. I was actually going to interject and say, this is kind of true with an asterisk.
What's the asterisk?
So, God, Jesus Christ, this is something that I'm embarrassed to admit. When I was 17, I was in high school. I was coming up with an idea for a new character design. I was designing characters. I was coming up with like a whole universe. I wanted to make like a cartoon to go with it, have a toy line. So, God,
it's a furry character, isn't it?
No, worse than furries.
No, that's me.
So I designed these little characters. They were dolls, okay, but they were dolls that had big heads, little bodies, claw hands, and their faces were completely expressionless, but they had 2 black eyes.
The Coraline?
No. I invented Funko Pops.
Oh
before
my
Funko
God.
Pops.
Oh no!
I came up with these little characters. So again, they're little doll characters, big heads, little claw hands, little bodies, and they had no mouths whatsoever. But they had 2 black eyes for their facial expressions.
Damn.
I drew. I can show you this. I have a sketchbook of this from when I was like 17. I showed my friends. They thought it was lame as balls, and I just scrapped the whole idea. Flash forward 10 years later, you can't like you go to any fucking store, you see these things everywhere.
Your friends were ahead of the curve. It is lame.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, it is lame as balls, but I could have. But I could be lame as balls plus $1 billion.
Exactly. Gangster shit.
filling all those soy boys with their needs.
I was actually at a store yesterday. A friend of mine came up from Pennsylvania. We were shopping in Manhattan. There's a store in downtown Manhattan called Forbidden Planet, where it's like a huge like comic book store, anime, manga. Yeah, it's a cool store. Actually, I bought a Voltron T-shirt when I was there, and but again, like I would say about like 1/4 of the store is all Funko stuff, all Funko Pops.
Jeez.
That's what it is. At like every comic book store you go into now, that's what it's like.
Oh god, you go to FYE, it's like 1/4. No, I would say that half of it's Funko Pops, and the rest of it's all
Wait a
Billie
second.
Eilish.
Yeah, to be fair, FYE
is still
yeah.
around. FYE
It's
is
still
still around.
Yeah, I was actually at one not too long ago.
And to be fair,
Jesus
it's always been garbage like that. There's never been good stuff in FYE.
I used to buy CDs from FYE.
Same here.
Something that I used to do that used to work at FYE back when I was still a teenager. You would take a sales sticker and put it on a CD that you wanted, and you would get the CD at that price. That's something that I used to do. I think that they kind of caught on to that strategy. After a while.
Showing my age here again. Back in the, before the internet, if you wanted a CD, if you wanted music, you had to pay for it. There's no Spotify. You couldn't download MP3. There's no YouTube.
Or Napster.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you had no choice. You had to go in the store and pay like $11 for a CD, or like $15 for a good CD or a tape. And
in the early 2000s, it was like $20 for a fucking CD. It was fucking weird.
Yeah. But I remember FYE used to be called Camelot back in like the 80s and 90s, and they got bought out by FYE. But yeah, there's actually an FYE at the shopping mall back in Lancaster, because every time I go back to Lancaster, we usually go there, and it's always empty. It's always dead. It's all a bunch of like fat goth girls buying Harley Quinn shit. But because I went to Hot Topic recently too, and I bought because I actually went to Hot Topic. I bought a Mortal Kombat T-shirt. About half the merchandise there. No, I would say it's all Rick and Morty, Cardi B, Billie Eilish, and like JoJo's Big Adventure or JoJo's Adventure or whatever, like anime that I've never
JoJo's
watched.
Bizarre Adventure.
Bizarre Adventure, yeah. Or like One Piece.
We had a Spencer's. We didn't have the.
We had both. There's Hot Topics. There's a bunch. There's Zoomies.
I know there's Hot Topic. We didn't have a Hot Topic in my mall. We did have a Spencer's, but they had the sex toys in there. But we would just we would just go in there anyway. Like anytime there was a school trip, there was like, don't go to Spencer's, and we would always go into Spencer's. I bought a. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Actually, mine's kind of a tangent from that. But you bought what there? Or?
I bought a lighter from there on a school trip. I bought a ICP lighter.
A Zippo one?
Yeah, it was a Zippo ICP lighter.
I remember when
the edgy thing to buy.
those were everywhere. Those were the best.
Yeah.
But Spencer's back in, well, there used to be two Spencers back at our mall in the 90s. There was a big one and a little one, and then they consolidated both of them. But back in the 90s, it was like just tons of, not stoner shit, but stuff that stoners would be into, like lava lamps and like disco balls.
Yeah.
And it was cool as hell, because I was like 11, 12, and I used to just go in there and just check out all the cool shit that I couldn't afford. Like plasma balls, those were cool too. Those little like purple ball things, you put your fingers on it and it glows.
Oh yeah, I had one. I had one of the green ones. It was like a weird abstract shape.
But yeah, Spencer's was cool.
Spencer's is still the same thing. It's still that. It's just now it's also a sex shop.
Oh yeah, I remember back when I was a kid, because they had the sex shop was at the very, very back of it. They had like adult DVDs, but it was all softcore stuff. Because remember, I was like 11, and a buddy of mine went there and we're like, oh my god, look, they have porno here. And we're all, we were laughing at it. And
movies for mom and dad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the beaded curtains. Yeah. But I remember they had like posters. They didn't sell like. I remember they had posters of like chicks in bikinis. I was like 10 or 11. My friends would all go in there. We would laugh at it like, "Oh my god, look, you can see her boobs." Just being a bunch of little shitheads. But now it's all like it's like there's so much Family Guy shit there too at Spencer's.
Man, I don't. God, that sounds sad. God, that actually makes me depressed. I'm glad I did edibles before I did this, because I would be really sad right now.
You go to like any store, it's all like Rick and Morty junk. There's like Doctor Who. Oh, and Cape shit like Marvel, Captain America, whatever. It's also tiresome.
The lowest common denominator. It's
That's just how it is. It just all dissipates as it goes.
No, we can't be depressing. Let's move away from this. I don't want to talk about depressing stuff. I want to talk about cool stuff. Baron, I got a question for you. Baron.
Yeah.
What was there ever a Lego build you used to do when you were a kid that you used to like build and then break it apart and rebuild it over and over and over again? I had one. It was the Lego Snowspeeder. I can't remember what year it came out, but it was one that I always did, and I would set it up like the the little Lego guy was actually building it or like doing repairs on it as I was building it. Like I would always do it. I did it with this particular Snowspeeder probably at least 10 times when I was probably about 9 or 10 years old. Do you have a similar story?
To be honest with you, not particularly. I mean, not that I can remember anyway, but I did have recurring themes, and there were things that I would build a lot, but it was never like a singular. It was never like an actual like retail set. It was mostly just like me using the parts that I had to make my own custom original stuff, and I would take it apart, and then like a month later, I kind of build the same thing, but from scratch. But it was almost like a modification to the previous one. But like a reoccurring thing that I did build often were spaceships. Especially around the time that when they re-released the new Star Wars movies in the theater back in the mid late 90s, then there was like a new resurgence for Star Wars, and obviously there was Star Fox and N64. So I was building like big like Star Destroyer type stuff, and I would take it apart, and like a month later I'd build it again. But it was the same sort of base concept, but now it had like different colors or different lasers and things like that. But that was mostly what I did. I rarely ever would build the same thing again. It was mostly just like recurring themes.
So Baron, like I guess whenever you're doing this, like a part of the appeal, I guess, for Lego, of course, like it got rebranded to like this intellectual hobby, and obviously stuff for like autists, and like a good way of branding it for kids, for parents to like have it's a smart toy for your kids. But the other idea is you can deconstruct it and then build new things. Were you saying that you would take apart your starships and then build new things with them, not build the same thing, or would you leave them as finished products and then that's kind of it for those blocks?
Like for example, I'll give you an example of one. When I was about 11, I remember vividly building this really big spaceship, and I remember I had it for like a couple months or so, but it took up a lot of pieces, and I needed it for another project, so I completely tore it apart. And then like a month later, I was like, you know what, I want to build that spaceship again. But there's no pictures of it because this is pre-internet. So I just kind of remembered how it looked in my head, and I kind of went back and built another one, and I would make like another spaceship again, like a few months later, that used similar parts, similar design to it, but that was really about it.
So you didn't have any hesitation to take down a finished product. It's not like, okay, this is now a whole toy or a whole display piece or piece of art that I can't.
I try to avoid. Well, nowadays, there are a few permanent structures. Actually, in my current place right now, there are a few permanent structures that I never intend on ever taking apart because actually I'm very proud of them. Like for example, like the head sculpture that I use for my avatar. That's essentially a permanent piece. Like I never at any point ever plan on taking that apart or breaking it or anything. But like there's some stuff that I built a long time ago that was just taking up space, and I was like, you know what, it doesn't look very good, and I can actually use the pieces for other stuff. So I'd actually take it apart. Usually, because most of the time, whenever I build something, I usually just dismantle it a few weeks later or so, and use the pieces for other stuff. Because I just kind of do it for social media, so I usually just recycle the parts afterwards. But like for example, my N64 and Super Nintendo Transformers, those are permanent things. Like I'm never going to dismantle those because those were like lightning in a bottle.
Exactly. And those things, like, did you, I think Briss was saying a little bit earlier, you wanted to ask about like how you conceptualize these pieces that don't have any blueprints and
like they're almost entirely organically. It's mostly just what I do is I try to conceptualize it in my head. I might draw a picture of it to see how it could look, and then I get the right color pieces for it and just kind of I kind of sort through all the different color pieces that I think I would need, and then I just kind of put into one big bucket for all the parts that I'm going to probably use for this particular project. Then I sift through it, sort through them all, and just there's a lot of trial and error to see if it's going to work or not, see if it's going to look good. And then after I'm done with it, then I just kind of like make a bunch of small improvements to it. It's mostly just a bunch of small improvements over the course of a few weeks.
It only takes you a few weeks, like a month and a half.
Some of them, it really depends. Like, because sometimes the actual because actually there might be like a huge obstacle, and then once I get through the obstacle, then it's kind of like free fall from there. Like for when I was working on my Super Nintendo Transformer, that took several months to do because there's an obstacle of making the cartridge slot reciprocate, which took like a whole month just to conceptualize. There was a whole there's an engineering obstacle of making it stand on its own without falling over. There's an engineering obstacle of having the start and reset buttons move up and down when you press them. Like stuff like that took like entire days and so to conceptualize, and I had to like build mock-ups and demos and see if it's going to work or not.
Do you have like a community where you troubleshoot stuff like that, like with other Lego people, and be like, hey, you know what? How can you get this mechanistically to work?
For some things, actually, I googled it to see like if there were similar things or if people might have built a similar concept, and like I might Google search. I don't copy off their entire project, but it's like I think for that one I might have Google searched like how did this person do this, and I looked at it and it's like, oh, okay, so that's the general idea of how they made the spring thing, how they had the mechanism for that part. So I took a basic part of that and implemented into this sort of concept as well. So it's not ripping off of them, but it's almost like it's two completely different things. But it's like how do their like reciprocating door work? Okay, well here's how mine's going to work. It's using their similar concept as theirs, but mine's a little bit different.
Yeah, you gotta stand on
I know that you said it was built based on more organic principles and approach, but like have you ever used like SolidWorks or like CAD software or anything like that?
I've never used anything as sophisticated as that, but I've used official Lego software. There actually was one called LDD, Lego Digital Designer, which was actually implemented from the company. You could download it for free. They phased it out a few years ago, and they came out with another one called Studio, which is stud.io, so it's like stud.io. It's 3D CAD software, but it's actually licensed by Lego. And they actually have like an entire library of parts and stuff. You can change the colors, and you can export an instruction guide too. So, yeah.
That probably sounds like it works better than Radan. I'll say that. That's the fucking thing about Radan. It's like an industry secret. You cannot figure out how to do it unless you failed at it a million times and wrote your own fucking rule book.
I didn't know the Lego stuff went that hard.
No, that was an aside. Sorry, no. The CAD software that he's talking about is for the Studio or whatever it is.
Yeah, Studio, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to rant about that.
There was another one that was a long time ago that actually wasn't official. It was like an unlicensed version, and it came out before LDD. This was back in the 2000s. I forget what it was called, but this was very hard to use because you need to like map out the coordinates and stuff like that. And there was like collision detection and stuff. And there's a lot less user friendly. I forget what it was called, but I'd used it once, and it was very, very, very difficult and technical. And then they came out with LDD, which was actually made by the company, which is more user friendly, but it had a bunch of glitches to it. And then they phased that out back in like 2019 or 2020, and they came out with Studio, which is like the new next thing from Lego.
Something I wanted to ask too: how encouraging was your family like about your interests and your hobbies related to Lego? Like, were they like, yo, like keep it up, like this is baller?
Oh yeah, forget about it. My mom drove me to a Lego contest when I was 7 and I actually entered into it. I built a. Actually, here's the deal, because my parents divorced when I was very young, and I had a stepdad. My stepdad was a total dick. He would punish me by confiscating my Lego collection a lot, and because he was a real dickhead. My mom and my biological dad were very encouraging of it. When I was probably about 4 or 5 years old, my mom took me to a Lego convention, and not a convention. I don't even really know what it was, and I can't ask her anymore, obviously. But when I was probably about 5, there's a shopping mall in Pennsylvania called the King of Prussia Mall. It's right outside of Philadelphia, and it's kind of a blurred memory. But I remember my mom drove me there, and they had like a giant Lego sculptures. This is like 1989, by the way. This is way before the internet, before the whole Lego movie fad. They had giant Lego sculptures in the shopping mall behind glass cases, and they had booths everywhere where kids could just play with any pieces they want to. It was like a Lego convention for kids. My mom took me there when I was 5. I was probably about 4 or 5. And then when I was 7, there was a Lego contest, officially sponsored Lego contest at the local Kmart. And I built my own creation. My mom took me there. I won a t-shirt. When I was 6, I won a t-shirt as my prize. When I was 6, after my parents divorced, my father sent me for my birthday the largest Lego set on retail at that time, which was a huge $150 monorail set. It was an electronic futuristic space monorail train set. But yeah, my dad sent it to me in the mail when I went for my 6th birthday. And I actually just saw him recently. He brought it up. He was like, hey, remember when I got you the giant Lego train set for your birthday? I'm like, yeah, of course I remember that. And yeah, later as a teenager, my mom would take pictures of my creation and share them with her friends. You know, she was very encouraging of that. It was mostly my stepdad who was kind of a dick about it, because he was just a dick in general. But yeah, my father was cool about it, and so was my mom.
Awesome.
Yeah, my father and I had a very strained relationship, because my mom divorced him when I was young. We were kind of like pen pals when I was a kid and a teenager for a little bit, and then we were reunited for a little bit. We got into a fight and haven't spoken since then. But then we actually just spoke recently after my mom died. We started talking again, and we're actually on good terms now. My father actually subscribes to my YouTube channel. He likes and comments on all my videos, so it's pretty cool.
That's adorable.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I would say definitely appreciate that. But it seems, from what I can tell, like your dad is he doesn't have anything bad going on. Like, he seems like he has his life together, at least from what I can tell.
Yeah.
So yeah, my dad passed away. So to kind of relate to your experience that you've been going through, my dad passed away back in 2015.
Okay.
And it's like that was very unexpected. But what I can say is, like, and it seemed like your mom was really supportive. Definitely appreciate that. I'm gonna have to cut this out because I'm getting emotional.
I understand.
No, leave it in. It's good.
It's really hard for me to talk about that.
I
should definitely
told us
cut this
about
out.
it before. Yeah, you've told us about it before. Yeah, no, I understand completely. Yeah.
It's like when we started, like I said, that I had like a million questions to ask Baron. I didn't even know where to start, and like that's exactly where I'm at now. Like I don't even know what to say.
Well, I could ask my little question I was thinking. So that art contest you won a little while ago, right? How's that going?
For the Lego House contest. So they had a contest for the official Lego website where you have to build a creation, you have to build a diorama within a certain confine, and it had to be either music themed, futuristic themed, or celebration themed. So I made the big rock concert in space called the Moon Rocks. Where it's like a big futuristic space band of astronauts playing in front of an audience of aliens. So it's actually a big diorama that I built. I kind of read the contest wrong. So there were 25. So there's like 100 submissions. They picked 25 winners. Of the 25 winners, the top 3 of the 25 would win the grand prize package. But everybody, regardless of whether they're in the top 3 or the top 25, they would win like $100 Lego set, which I actually won. Which I'm actually still waiting for that to come in the mail.
Nice.
But of the 25 winners, whether they're a grand prize or just one of the 25 or so, they are eligible to have their Lego creation featured in Denmark. they didn't specify which ones get picked. I was one of the 25 winners. I think I was like number 15 or so out of like 25. So I wasn't the grand prize winner, but I was one of the 25 winners. So I won a huge Lego set, but I wasn't one of the grand prize winners. And they didn't tell me whether or not my thing's going to be chosen to be put on display in Denmark.
Do you know if like it's still like if it's still like an option, or is it like you don't think they're going to do it?
Probably not, because honestly, I don't really care at this point, because I'm trying to move out of my apartment. So I'm actually trying to get rid of all my stuff. So it's mostly it's like just let me know or not. But I'm actually glad that I'm glad I won. But also, this is actually the first time that I was actually even able to enter a contest with Lego, because every contest they had in the past, I was always disqualified. And I was pissed about it.
But an age thing, I'm guessing?
No. Actually, no. They actually encourage adults to build things, because actually it's mostly for adults. I mean, they have because I think you have to be 13. The youngest you can be is 13. It's mostly like for adults to build stuff. And then like if you're under 13, you have to get parents' permission. Last year, no, it was October of last year. They did a music theme contest where you had to build something involving guitars. You know me. I'm a huge fan of rock music. The winner receives a real Fender Stratocaster guitar, as well as the Lego Stratocaster set. So I made I was going to build a Lego diorama of Nirvana, but I made these like weird wonky bobblehead anime character versions of Nirvana. I worked my ass off. I made Kurt Cobain, I made Chris Novoselic, and then right before the contest deadline was about to expire, I didn't finish Dave Grohl in time, so I just submitted the picture of Kurt by himself. I submitted it like the day before the contest was about to end. They rejected it and said, "You can't. This includes adult content, therefore it's rejected." And I'm like, "Adult content, my ass! It's just Kurt Cobain standing there with a guitar. He's not smoking pot. He's not smoking a cigarette. He's not shooting himself in the head. Like it's just Kurt Cobain standing there with a guitar. How is that adult content?"
Did you put the photo realistic track marks in his arms and stuff?
No, it was just him standing there with a guitar and a microphone. That's all it was. So they rejected it, and I was pissed. About a few months before that contest, they had another contest a few months before that for you to do a stop motion animation, which is where I shine, because I do animations. So the theme for this contest was it had to take place in medieval times. It had to be, what would life be like in medieval times if there were no medieval blacksmiths? So that didn't give me much to work with to begin with. So I had to think of a really cheesy, stupid, corny idea that's gonna be harmless. And I worked my ass off to do this animation. I made it exactly under 30 seconds. I followed every single rule possible. I submitted it like the hour before the deadline was about to expire. Like I'm talking like the submission time was like midnight. I submitted it like 11 p.m. Like I had like no time to spare.
Geez.
I submitted the video. They rejected it instantly and said this is rejected because of references to third-party intellectual property, because it's a parody, because mine takes place in medieval times. There's a fictional medieval rock band like in Shrek, and it's a band where I never actually mentioned what the band is called, and you never actually hear the band play, but the band resembles but is distinct from the band Queen. So I never actually say that this is in fact a parody of Queen. But it's a band on stage where the members look like, they're minifigs that look like the members of Queen, but they're dressed in like, knight armor because it's medieval times.
I never would have thought Lego would have had so much red tape around it. Like,
oh yeah, forget. Well, whenever you submit an idea, whenever they have a contest, they have a huge list of things that you can't do. Obviously, you can't do things involving, sex, drugs, politics, warfare. Nobody can be killed, no violence. So you have a very, very narrow list to begin with, and then after that, they have a list of third-party licenses you can do references to. And they're very strict about that as well. So you can't do stuff that they have so you obviously can't do Nirvana now, apparently. So for example, you couldn't do something for you couldn't do like a Cardi B Lego creation because she's a rapper who sings like about sex and stuff like that. But you could do something for you could do like a harmless musician who's doesn't sing about sex. That's the thing.
Would that not be,
I don't know.
I'm
just thinking One Direction.
Yeah, exactly. So you could do if they have a contest, you could do like a Lego K-pop thing, and no one's going to complain about it. But if you do if you do like Slipknot, they're going to bitch about it. So that's the thing. So that's the thing too. So I got rejected by both those contests. I was really pissed off, and I was like, okay, well here's another contest, and I was like, third time's a charm, and I won.
Yeah, that's the grind. You just got to keep submitting shit.
Yeah, the animation video. So my video, it's called Harder Than Rock. So my video, it starts off with there's a contest. I mean, there's a concert in medieval times. A band's about to play. they're all obviously members of Queen, but they're dressed as like they're wearing like knight armor on stage. Everybody in the audience is like a medieval peasant. And the voiceover says, "In a world without metal is harder than rock, but a world without metal does not rock." And then like all of a sudden their guitars turn into like and all of a sudden like their guitars turn into like pitchforks and stuff like that. And everyone boos them off stage. Internet Historian did a cameo for that. I actually got Internet Historian to do a voiceover for that as well.
Damn.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it now if you want to post it in the.
For sure.
Yeah, we can put it in the description. That's going to be your job, by the way.
Well, you're doing all the emotional editing.
Internet Historian's such a nice guy. It's I like how he works with a lot of people.
Oh yeah, because actually he and I were supposed to do a collaboration a long time ago. Back in around the time that Mumkey was doing the Sodi thing with Rusty and Emp. Remember they had the State of the YouTube animation contest? Remember that?
Yes.
Well, I did a Lego. Yeah. Well, I did a Lego video for that, and they actually showed it in their video. And that's actually how I got the first shout out by Mumkey, was when I did the Sodi animation. They tweeted it, and Internet Historian actually he replied to it. He's like, "Holy shit, this is awesome!" And I emailed him and I was like, "Hey, I saw you liked my cartoon. Do you want to do an animation together?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, let's work on a project." But we never actually followed up with it though, because he's always doing stuff.
Do you keep in contact with him at all?
It was just those few times, and then so when I did the medieval blacksmith video, that was about 2 years later. I emailed him again. I was like, "Hey, I know it's been a while since we last talked, but I'm doing a contest it's due in like a week. Would you be just like say one line for me?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, here you go." And he replied back like the next day.
Dope. He remembered.
That's pretty baller.
I forget his name now. It's the Lost Media Channel, George something.
Oh yeah,
I know. Yeah, the
yeah.
I'm in his Discord group, I think.
Do you keep in contact with Blame It on Jorge or
sort of like Blame It on Jorge? It's weird because even though like it's kind of a weird story about the Lost Media guys, because like even though I'm not far removed from them, but it's like every now and then just completely random strangers. Like I'll leave a comment on a random YouTube video for like anything, for like history or like music, and some random stranger will reply to my comment and go, "Oh my god, you're the Subway commercial guy. I saw you in Blame It on Jorge's video." Or there's another Discord where I posted in, and I got into an argument with someone recently. And I was posting a bunch of memes, and we were kind of battling back and forth. Sorry, my voice cracked because I had a cold over the weekend. So anyway, so I was battling back and forth with somebody about memes, and then somebody replied back and it's like, "Oh my god, you're the guy from that Blame It on Jorge video with the Subway commercial." And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And he's like, "Oh my god, it's actually you."
So what's the video? I need some context here. So this is Lost Media people, like some kind of like humor channel?
So here's the TLDR.
He says it.
What happened is back in the mid '90s when I was a kid, there was a commercial for Subway, but it wasn't like an actual like a nationally produced Subway commercial. Like it wasn't like a big budget one that they would show across the country. It was a Subway commercial for a sandwich chain, but it was like shot on video. It had really cheap effects, cheap actors. It looked like it was recorded in someone's basement. That's how cheap it looked. And it was so cheap that we used to make fun of it all the time when I was a kid, and then we never saw it again.
90s,
yeah, back in like '95.
Commercials were already not that great.
Yeah, but this looks like it was like done as like a high school project. It was like really cheesy, and we never saw it again after that. And I always remembered it. And then in the 2000s, I started Googling it to see if I could find it anywhere on YouTube. There's no results for it in the slightest bit. I went on message boards. I would ask about it. I posted about it on Reddit. I posted about it on 4chan. No leads. Everybody's like, "What are you talking about? That sounds ridiculous. That's not a real commercial."
I wonder if Hank can find it.
Yeah. So then around the early 2010s. I came up with an idea where it's like, well, I'm going to make a documentary about this commercial, about my memory of it, and I'm going to reenact it with live actors, in the hopes that it's going to go viral and somebody's going to watch it and they're going to say, "Oh yeah, I have a copy of this commercial on VHS. Here you go. I recorded it back in '95." Nice. I put it on the back burner because it required a lot of resources back then to get actors. So then I decided a few years later to resurrect the idea and say, "Okay, I'm going to make an animation instead." So I made a stop motion animation from Lego, based entirely off my memory. I shared it on Reddit. People liked it. It got a lot of exposure, and about 2 years went by, and the Lost Media Wiki decided they're going to cover it in one of their campaigns to try to find it. No results. We searched high and low. We couldn't find it at all. Next thing you know, it was actually around this time last year. It was around spring 2021. Some guy messaged me and said, "Oh, by the way, we found the commercial." And I was like, "Wait, you're kidding, right?" He goes, "No, look." And he sent me a link on Instagram. some random guy on Instagram obtained a VHS tape that had a bunch of commercials and TV shows from back in the 90s recorded on it, and one of them was the Subway commercial. And he uploaded it to Instagram, and I was like, oh my fucking god, it's the fucking commercial. So we downloaded it. We downloaded it. Someone else uploaded it to YouTube before I did, and then I confirmed that it was the real one. The Lost Media Wiki wrapped up and said, okay, it's a real commercial. And then I recorded a follow-up video where I talked about how my search and how I found it. And blame it on Jorge. That's his name. Him and All Things Lost, which is another Lost Media channel. They did like a collaboration video about it where they mentioned like the top 10 things found in 2021, and that was actually one of the ones listed. Of Lost Media that was discovered.
That was crazy when I saw you like post about that, because I already loved all that Lost Media stuff, and it was like, oh dang, that's pretty awesome. I know this person.
Yeah, it happens every now and then. Like somebody will randomly ping me in one of the Discords where I post, and they'll say, "Wait, are you the Baron Von Brunk guy that blame it on Jorge mentioned in his video for the Subway commercial?" That'll happen every now and then. It's just kind of weird.
So those guys.
They seem like the whole Lost Media guys seem really nice though. So I mean, that's cool that you still at least keep up with them.
Yeah. So the commercial's premise was it was a fat bald man with a big mustache on top of a mountain. Well, actually, in my memory, it was on top of a mountain. In the actual commercial, they were like on a set with like a bunch of fog, like smoke in the background, and he was groveling in front of like an Indian guru, like a guy with a long beard and long hair, and the bald man calls him the Great Seer, and he's like, oh, Great Seer, vessel of wisdom, bringer of truth, I hunger for perfection, and he goes, well, perfection can be yours. Take your hunger to Subway subs. And he goes, Subway subs, and there's like a montage where it's like, there at Subway you will find the newest sandwich, and they do like a little like voiceover, and then at the very end of it, the fat bald man goes, Subway. He takes a big bite of the sandwich, he goes, and it's really awkward.
You posted a GIF of that.
Oh yeah, I have that. I actually have both. I have the actual commercial and my reenactment. I'll post both animation. This is the actual. I'll post a GIF in the voice chat here. That's the end of the commercial. The guy takes a bite of the sandwich.
You ever think about going deeper into like the Lost Media stuff, or you think that's just gonna be that's it? You're not gonna do any more with it?
There's a few things that I'm trying to search for, like, because actually, when I was talking about when I first wanted to search for this commercial, I was going to make a whole documentary on obscure 90s footage, and a lot of them I actually did find on my own, and I actually was able to finish a lot of mysteries. For example, back in the 90s, there was a very, very short-lived campaign to get people to buy flowers, and they used a man in a bee costume to advertise them. It was a very, very obscure thing that nobody else remembers, but it was this weird fat guy dressed up as a bumblebee that would tell people to go and buy flowers. It was such a bizarre thing.
Was it regional?
No, it was national, but it was a promotion from, I think, the USDA, or like the Agricultural Association, and they were able to collaborate together and basically come up with like this multi-million-dollar campaign to get people to buy flowers, because people usually buy flowers for Mother's Day, but it's like, well, you can buy flowers in July, just because, for the hell of it.
Diamonds.
For that one, I actually was going to make a video for that, but I actually kind of scrapped it. Well, it's actually on the back burner for now, but I actually was able to contact the guy who played the bee costume guy. I actually found him.
Oh, that's really crazy.
Oh.
For that one, I actually found him, but this is before the pandemic, and he was actually being hospitalized at the time for some health issues. And he's like, yeah, when I'm out of the hospital, I'll let you know. But then we never followed up with that. I found the lady.
I hope he's okay.
Yeah, well, because he still has a Facebook page. The lady who wrote the commercials, I actually found her on LinkedIn, and she actually did a full interview with me. She was cool about it, but I never actually made it to a video. But I was going to do that along with the Subway commercial simultaneously. But so I have all the assets for that, but I just never finished it. But the commercial is called Think Flowers. It was a fat man in a bee costume that says like teaches you should think flowers.
I think I remember.
For it, I found, and I found questions, and they replied back to it. But this is like right as the pandemic started, so that's the last I heard from him.
Yeah, you should. I would love to see that. You should definitely put that together.
I hope he's doing all right.
I might have a link to one of the. Actually, I do have one of the commercials with the bee costume, but it was a very, very short-lived, obscure promotion back in like '95 or '96. So it only lasted for like a few months or so. But they had like a fat guy in a bee costume going up to random strangers and telling them to buy flowers. It was a really weird thing. But I was going to cover that in the Subway commercial because my original plan a long time ago was to make a documentary about obscure 90s media, including the Subway commercial and also the bee costume guy. And I cracked the bee costume guy thing, and then next was going to try to crack the Subway commercial, which I found it, but I need more information on that to find out what the deal was. One of the people, I think someone in the comment section for Blame It on Jorge's video, they actually did mention that they knew somebody who worked on the Subway commercial, and they don't know the whole details of it, but they believe that actually it was a regional commercial that was supposed to be shown in one location. That's why it was shot so poorly, and they were doing like a paste picante sauce promotion for the hot sauce, and they couldn't get like national permission, I think, so they showed it regionally for just a short period, for like about a month or so back in '95. That's why it's so obscure.
Speaking of lost media, there was a piece of lost media that I researched. This was probably back in like 2004. It was the Harmony Gold dub of Dragon Ball, which I had seen as a kid. I had seen that, and I recently found out that they found it. It's like on archive and archive.com or what is it? Archive.com or archive.org?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, I that's what I've been doing today. I've been trying to watch through that again. Oh man,
there's
Willy the
there's
Warden.
One Warden. Hey, what's up? There's one piece of lost media that I've been trying to find for a long time.
Don't tell me it's the 4Kids dub.
No, it was a PC game, and I don't know how to describe it. It was like a first-person maze kind of game that you would go through. Mm-hmm. And there's like certain amount of walls you can like pass through, and you had to like find these like potions or something. And it had like an Egyptian theme, and I cannot for the life of me find it anywhere. I can't find pictures of it. I can't find even like a mention of it. And it was some PC game, I know that much. And it was like a maze first person puzzle kind of game.
Egyptian.
Yeah, I can't find it. I've been.
That kind of
I would love to play that again.
There's a puzzle game for Sega Genesis that I've been. Oh, sorry, what was that, Kandor?
I was just saying, like that lost media kind of subsection of tracking down, banding together, and like vetting each other's memories has become a huge thing, like as evidenced by Wang's channel, right?
Yeah, Wang's been doing a lot with it.
Well, actually, the funny thing is, when I first made the Subway commercial video, I actually did reach out to Wang and see if he could record it for me. Because Wang and I follow each other on Twitter, and I actually tweeted at him, and he's like, yeah, maybe I can feature it later. But then, time took its toll, and eventually Blame It on Jorge helped me out instead. What I was going to say, though, there was a Sega Genesis game back in the 90s that I remember playing once. It was a puzzle game, and I can find no existence of it at all. I don't think it's lost media, but it's very, very obscure media that I can't find. But it was a puzzle game like Tetris. It was like a Tetris knockoff. And I remember it was about one of the levels was about the Berlin Wall. That's all I remember, because there was like a big puzzle of the Berlin Wall, and you had to like destroy it, but it was like Tetris.
Huh.
Like a historical educational.
It wasn't like there was like 4 directions you can shoot in, and the objects were weird shapes. It wasn't.
No, it was.
Like that,
I remember, this is back in like '95, back in the days of Sega Channel. You guys are probably too young to remember Sega Channel. It was.
I know of it. I never used it. I was too poor.
Yeah, my next door neighbor had it. We used to play it a lot. Sega Channel was like a special attachment you plug into your Sega Genesis. It's hooked up through a cable line, and you could download games and play them temporarily. It was actually a precursor to almost like a precursor to Steam or Steam. That's what it was like. But this is for your TV back in the 90s. And a friend of mine had it.
Really ahead of time.
Oh yeah, actually, funny thing is, the Sega Channel actually paved the way for modern infrastructure for broadband. Because actually, when they first invented Sega Channel, they had to develop whole new infrastructure for that, and then that technology paved the way for broadband internet. But this puzzle game, all I remember was that it was like Tetris, but there was a level that was like, there was a picture of the Berlin Wall, and you had to like destroy it with a bunch of like multicolored bricks. That's all I remember. But I can't find any record of it anywhere online.
Well, hopefully whoever listens to this can help bring light to it. That would be awesome.
Leave that.
But yeah, if you go to the voice channel real quick, actually, I uploaded 2 videos. I uploaded a video of the Buzz the Bee Think Flowers video, and I uploaded the Subway commercial in their entirety.
He's not lying, folks. The proof is in the description right here.
I fucking remember this shit.
What, the bee?
Yeah, I've seen this before. I remember this.
What, when you were 1 year old?
I don't know. It just like opened a memory. I remember this.
I definitely have seen this, but I saw it recently because Baron has posted this in Mumkey's Discord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely not. It was definitely not in the Discord I saw. This was like a long time ago. I saw this.
Yeah,
the guy with the beard reminds me either of Santa Christ or of like Spoonie in a fucking wig.
Yeah, it looks similar. Yeah. Well, welcome, Willy. Willy the Warden has graced us with his presence. Willy, we're interviewing Baron for this episode. Do you have any questions for him or about Lost Media? Lego expert.
Not really. I'm making a Lego Sesame Street right now, if that counts, because I know he makes Lego and shit.
That's very on brand.
Yeah.
They have a Muppets brand now with Lego.
Yeah, I saw that too.
What, like a subdivision or like a set?
Well, they have minifigs. They have Sesame Street and Muppets minifigs now.
So it's more than just like painted on the same old Lego man painted on.
Oh yeah, like they actually do like molded heads and hats and stuff like that to make characters. I mean, they've been doing that for a while. Like they have Simpsons minifigs.
True. Do you feel like the enhanced kind of models like that take away from that kind of standard blocky branding or appeal to it?
Not necessarily. I mean, like sometimes it actually helps out a little bit because you can use some of the more obscure pieces for when you're building like original stuff where there's no pieces before. Because back when I was a kid, all you had were just like flat pieces, like flat bricks and like squares, and that's all you had when I was a kid. Now there's tons of stuff. There's all sorts of different shapes. There's cones, wedges, slopes, tile, all sorts of different things.
The opportunities are endless. And I wanted to ask a little bit earlier too, but you mentioned, and just pivoting a little bit more towards like your creation of the YouTube content and getting into that sphere, like how did that start, and did your kind of ties to G4 and those forums from earlier in life ever factor into your success there? Or
Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, like, the YouTube thing isn't my primary thing. It's just kind of something I just sort of have. My YouTube channel, the reason why I have a very limited audience and why I don't upload very often is because it's originally, when I first started a YouTube channel, I didn't launch it with the intention of being famous. Obviously, I wasn't trying to get a lot of subscribers. It was quite literally, I would make creations and I wanted people to see them, and I would make YouTube videos to accompany them. So it's like, I would make an electronic Lego creation that lights up and makes noises. And so the idea was that you go to my website, see the pictures of it, read about how I built it, and then at the very end of it in the video, you can watch it actually make noises, and the lights will glow, and you can hear the sound effects. And that's mostly just like there just for the purpose of dumping the videos.
True. And then is that how you started the first time? Was it just you're creating these sets and then you started creating the videos to demonstrate it?
It was mostly because actually the first Lego video I ever uploaded on YouTube was back in 2013. It was when I made my giant NES controller, the very first edition of it. And I wanted to upload a video of me showing how it actually works, because it actually plays games. It actually was wired into a TV. But I actually dismantled it since then and rebuilt it. But actually, I wanted to record a video of me actually playing it to show you how it actually functions. I uploaded that video. It got it got like, I think 60,000 views or so. They showed it on Discovery Channel Canada.
Holy shit!
Oh yeah, I mean I mentioned that. Yeah. And then back in
everywhere.
back in 2014, and 2015, I started tinkering a lot with electronic Lego creation. So I would build Lego creations that had like microchips inside them, so they would blink when you press buttons. And so most of my creations at that time, they were just like simple 30-second videos with just like a white background of just like my finger pushing a button to show you how it lights up and makes noises, and that's really about it.
Sounds like you got a sexy ass finger then, hand modeled.
Yeah.
But I guess like Briss was asking about the first kind of seminal like model that really made you turn on to like really loving Lego, or like really liking that finished product and start posting pictures. Did you have a first video that really took off or became really successful that got you some viewers and subscribers?
Oh yeah, the NES controller. I mean that was back in 2013.
So your first video, essentially.
Well, yeah, that was the very first Lego video. Because actually before that, I used to upload random stuff to my channel. Like I would upload just like me goofing off, and like I would upload King of the Hill clips and stuff like that to my channel. And once I started doing the Lego stuff, then I deleted them all and just started focusing on that exclusively.
So you started the YouTube, not necessarily. Yeah, exactly. You got to keep the brand consistent. So you started YouTube separately from your Lego fandom.
Yeah, I mean, because back in the day when I launched my YouTube channel just because like that was because I wanted to like and comment on people's videos, and that was why. And then I would upload my own stuff too to go with it.
No, we can't do this. We can't have dead air.
Sorry, I'm a little distracted.
Yeah, I was just taking a sip, but I was gonna meld something that I've been talking to Willy about. Willy the Warden, our infamous contributor here in the Measly Few, he has been struggling through his early channel slump of deleting your stuff and not thinking it's good enough, and kind of always wanting to put out the perfect first video. Do you have any advice for him in terms of being starting your channel and like not being too harsh or?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, like I couldn't even tell you, especially in this day and age. Like nowadays, like starting a YouTube channel nowadays with the algorithm and stuff, it's just I wouldn't even know where to begin. Because like I said, I started mine a long time ago, with solely as a dumping ground to upload my creations, just so I can have them accompanied by a blog, so you can read about how I built it and then see the video of how it functions. And I didn't do any sort of like forward-facing videos until like about 2015 or so. And but again, they were meant to accompany pre-existing creations. So I never actually like made like how should I say this, like a type of video that like I guess like Justin Wang or Wavy Web Surf would make. I never made a video like that at all. So I couldn't tell you how to make a good thing to get on the algorithm.
What about your earlier creations, like your earlier Lego creations? Whenever you made it and you're like, okay, this is shit. Maybe I shouldn't take a picture of it.
Oh yeah, because actually, the very first things that I started taking pictures of for social media anyway. Because back in the 90s, I used to take pictures of my stuff with film cameras and develop the pictures and scan them. That's how old I am. Back in the 2000s, I used to build Gundams. Like I used to build like Lego Gundams and mecha anime type stuff. And I took some pictures of it.
Do you remember the commercials on Toonami for those?
Yeah.
For Gundam Wing.
Yeah. No, the Gundam.
Are you talking about? Yeah, the Gunpla commercials. Yeah, those.
Yeah, I remember that. Where it was like level 5 or whatever. They talk about like how hard they are to build.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like edgy boy stuff. I love it.
Yeah, I had a bunch of those. But I used to build Lego Gundams back in the mid 2000s, and I used to take pictures of it with my old snapshot camera. And I'd post them on like Zanga and MySpace way back in the day.
Oh, I remember MySpace. I was into so many forums on MySpace.
I was
MySpace for was forums.
I was active in the MySpace anime forum 2006 to 2008, I think. That's when we used to do the HTML bombs and just destroy threads. Oh man, that was a fun time. Oh man.
Back in the days of MySpace, I was active a lot in video games and music, like stuff like local bands would have stuff, and we'd all talk about like new albums and things like that, and shows.
I was active in a RuneScape one, an anime one, and I think just like a random talking one.
Hey, wait, hold up, Neko. You're making fun of us for being boomers before. How old are you? And because MySpace was even before my time.
I'm 16.
I knew it.
Yeah, I was a little infant on the computer, typing away.
Yeah. Where can I find rabbits to draw?
Oh man, the furry, yeah, that was also another whole rabbit hole I went down.
But back in the days of MySpace, I was gonna say like back in the MySpace days, at its heyday anyway, back in like 2006, 2007, I was about 22 years old, so I was in my early 20s back then.
You were grooming them young.
But I used to go to a lot of local shows. Back in my hometown, there was it was like a hipster bar where a lot of like local bands would play, and there's a MySpace page for that. We'd all like leave comments and talk about like up and coming shows and things like that. So I was really active on that a lot. Yeah, because actually my friend's band played there a bunch of times too. Back when he had his band, back in like 2009, back when we were in our 20s.
Yeah, in 2009, like when I was like going through high school, I used to be a sick young rapper, and MySpace was actually like the place for music, especially. Like it was.
I used to do
up your songs. Go on, Briss.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. No, I was gonna say me and my buddy Mike Shoemake, who is an Asian guy. We used to do Snapvine. We used to do these little Snapvine. It was basically like leaving a voicemail for somebody. Like you would make a Snapvine account and then you would leave a voicemail with your phone. But we would do guitar solos back and forth, and we'd send that back and forth to each other on our MySpace comment section. And that was a lot of fun. We didn't have like a channel or not really. It wouldn't have been a channel. It'd really been more like a page We didn't have anything like that set up. It was a very personal thing. But I missed that. I think Snapvine was like the precursor to I think just like Vines.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it was anyway.
Just short like video format kind of thing.
No, like you would call in on your phone and just leave a voicemail. That's what Snapvine was. You just leave a voicemail. So it was really weird.
Audio posting, I guess, like Vocaroo or something.
Vocaroo, that's what it probably was.
Vocaroo is really good. I love Vocaroo.
Yeah, but like back in the day, yeah, 'cause remember back in MySpace, you could leave HTML comments. People would have HTML disabled on their page, so you couldn't leave them. You could only leave text comments because people would spam with videos and stuff and animated GIFs over that.
Yeah, and it took like 2 years to load just a GIF.
I gotta do that. Like a buddy of mine, actually one of my close friends at the time, his page, I would always try to avoid going to his page because first of all, he changed his name every day. A buddy of mine, he was about a year older than me. He was really big into like nu metal back in the 2000s. So he was kind of like he wasn't a scene kid, but he was kind of like a skater, really big into nu metal, like Static X and Slipknot. And you go to his page, and he had like just so many fucking animated GIFs in the background. He had like Slipknot blasting, and it takes forever to load. It always crashed from all the corrupt HTML code, and so I'd always avoid going to his pages because of that.
But those are the guys that you like. Everyone would be like starting a MySpace page and be like, "Bro, how'd you do that, man? Yo, could you do it for me? Like, I want all that cool shit. So pro."
You know, they just like grabbed a template from somewhere.
My page, I remember vividly, my page had a solid white background, but I had the word Brunk repeatedly looping as like a background. Like I typed the word Brunk in Photoshop and just had it repeatedly looping in the background as like a watermark. So, I mean, like you could still see text in front of it. It was like gray on white, so you could see it was almost like a watermark of Brunk everywhere.
Nice.
I had a Fritz the Cat comic as my profile picture, and it was a plain black background. But I think I had the text on my profile like edited to be, I think, Comic Sans or like something really obnoxious.
Yeah, I had that too for my my album cover.
I don't remember what I had. I probably had like a furry or something on mine.
Yeah, my profile pictures were usually just like weird pictures of me, but I always try to make mine all like, I mean, I try to make mine so you could still visit it and wouldn't crash your browser.
You walk the line of interesting and personalized without being taxing.
Oh yeah, and you could have you had like an audio player, just like play music.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Friend of mine.
God.
I think I put like Tetris on mine or something, and I just went to my page and just played Tetris a lot.
I put like Doobie Brothers on mine. I think like something stupid, like fucking boomer music.
Mine was classical. Mine was it was Mars, the Bringer of War by Gustav Holst. It was a classical song.
Oh hell yeah! I know Gustav Holst.
Yeah,
that's very modernist composer.
Yeah.
My music was probably Slipknot or something. I still listen to Slipknot. I love Slipknot.
Mine was like Frank Zappa because I was really into Frank Zappa and just
a friend of mine likes him.
Like Doobie Brothers and
Doobie Brothers.
And some other stuff too. Basically anything you might find on a classic rock station, plus like some jazz music and Frank Zappa.
Real quick, it's kind of like a little side note, real quick. If it sounds like I'm going through puberty, what's happening is I had a cold over the weekend, so I have a sore throat right now. So my voice will randomly crack and get high, so I might be like, anyway, so I was listening to Frank Zappa. Like, I'll do like that unironically. It's because I have a sore throat. Yeah, I have a sore throat right now.
So you're not trying to appeal to Neko's Zoomer pubescent.
So if my voice cracks or if my voice gets randomly high pitched, it's because I have a sore throat right now.
You're the last person who has anything to be ashamed of right now.
If he wants to appeal to me, he has to become a femboy.
Oh god. Remind me to kill you later.
the Brunk.
Oh wait, no, I'll edit that out. Okay.
No, you can leave it in.
The Brunk Lego head with the TikTok boy hair is actually in development right now.
Believe it or not, I unironically had the TikTok boy haircut when I was a teenager back in the 2000s. That was a thing back then.
What, was it a photo or what?
No, it was. I had my hair was naturally curly. Like when I was a kid, I had a mullet, and then I kind of grew into like a afro/mullet, where it was curly on the top and then long in the back. It was really weird looking.
That's really fast forward, actually.
I could show you a picture of it. Like I could scan it. I mean, I have to go back and look through my photo albums, but I actually do have a picture of me at like 16 or 17, and I had like this big poofy like a Zoomer haircut, but I also had like a ponytail mullet in the back. This is back in like 2001 too. This is like a long time ago.
I think that's like a haircut that's popular now. Mullet.
Are we talking like Heartsy haircut here? Like what are we talking about?
With the mullet.
Let me pull it up here. I might have one somewhere scanned on my computer. If not, I'll just scan it. But I definitively had a mullet with a big afro in the very top.
I was gonna say, do you guys want to cut it anytime soon? I think it's almost been 2 hours or something.
Has it really been that long?
No,
not 2 hours.
About an hour, 30 minutes. Yeah, I don't know how long you guys want to have it go.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I could do this forever.
Yeah. I'm out of questions. I don't really.
It's pretty. I think we should probably keep it definitely less than 2 hours. If anybody has any, like, Kandor, you got any final thoughts or?
Yeah, any sort of like rapid fire questions.
Yeah. All right, Willy, rapid fire. This is the Willy rapid fire moment.
Yeah.
I actually got some rapid fire questions for Baron, but if you want to go first, go ahead.
Yeah, Willy, why don't you take us away with that if you have anything to ask?
We can talk about the Bob's Burgers movie.
I didn't even know there was one.
Have you seen it?
I didn't know there was one either.
Oh my god,
Really?
That's probably awful.
As someone who doesn't even like the show, I actually enjoy the movie fairly well. It's kind of like a musical, but yeah, it was all right.
Every episode of Bob's Burgers is a musical.
Yeah,
well, really?
I like burgers. Burgers are pretty good.
No.
Bob's Burgers is a good show.
It's
and this is just something coming from someone who doesn't like the show, but I actually did enjoy the movie thoroughly enough.
Nice. Watch the Bob's Burger movie, guys.
I've never even seen the show.
Yeah, me either.
I've seen I know John Benjamin. I definitely know John Benjamin. He's a great comedian.
Coach McGurk.
Coach McGurk.
Yeah.
And he was also in Family Guy as the video store owner dude.
Oh yeah.
And he also had his own TV show on Comedy Central for John Benjamin Has a Van.
And if you want to hear a really good boomer reference, he was another Comedy Central show back in the 90s called Dr. Katz.
Dr. Katz. Yes, I know.
He played the deadbeat son.
Yep.
Sweet. Willy, maybe I should rephrase. Willy, do you have any questions for Baron Von Brunk?
Not really. Did you like the Lego movie? I guess.
Solid.
You want to know the honest truth?
Yeah, sure. No, yeah.
I never even seen it.
Oh wow. Okay.
Terrible.
I watched parts of it, thought it looked lame, and said, "I'm not going to watch this."
You now legally have to destroy all your Legos.
Oh no!
And people are like, "Oh, don't you love the Everything Is Awesome song?" It's like I've never even heard it. I heard parts of the movie. It sounded lame, and I never had any interest in watching it.
Was there like a Lego? Was there a Lego like community backlash about it? About being so mainstream?
What the fuck is a Lego movie?
I mean, not at all. I actually had kind of the opposite. It's almost how like when like Marvel got really big, how like all the big nerds and stuff, there wasn't a big backlash towards it per se, but it was all like there's all the cape shit and stuff where everybody was now because now that comic book characters are mainstream now. It actually had kind of the exact opposite. Everybody had their time to shine, so to speak.
Yeah.
But not to sound like a hipster again, but again though, I liked it before it was cool.
Yeah, it's factual. Nothing wrong with that. But it didn't make it uncool because it was all mainstream. Fair enough. What about Batman?
But here's the thing, though. But I do understand references to it. So, for example, when I made my Moon Rock set, the lead singer who's playing guitar, he's a blue astronaut. I did that on purpose because people like that Benny character. So when I submitted that, I got a ton of comments from little kids like, "Oh my God, look, it's Benny."
Nice. Calculated.
Yeah, so that was actually done purposely because I knew that Benny was a popular character, so I deliberately made the lead singer a blue spaceman.
Right. Well, I guess I have a question for you, Baron, about the disparate fan base that you have in terms of your content versus like the communities you frequent. Do you enjoy that in terms of like having things compartmentalized?
Can you? I mean, no offense or anything. Can you? I guess could you rephrase that? I'm not sure what you referred to.
Yeah. So like you have fair enough. You have an audience of kids, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have an audience of kids and adults. It's kind of a weird mix.
True, but by definition, like you would have to.
It's a children's toy, so I have to kind of keep it squeaky clean.
Exactly. so for the content, you sometimes have circles of edgier people that would not necessarily play nice with those people. Is that something you think about, or do you think is good or bad in terms of?
I understand what you mean, because actually there was sort of a period where I went completely like full G-rated, where I only did stuff where there was only strictly for children only, and that was because back in 2015, 2016, I actually had serious aspirations to work for the company. I was actually friends with a bunch of employees who, one of them actually invited me to visit the Lego, not the factory. The factory's in Denmark, but they have a North American office in Connecticut. I used to be friends with the guy that worked there. He actually invited me on a tour for the whole office, and it was a really cool event. I wanted to get a job there, so I was like, I got to keep my nose clean, so to speak. I want to have a very squeaky clean image, be nice, be happy, only do positive stuff, only do like Disney type stuff. So back in if you look at my stuff from back in 2015 through 2017, mostly for the most part anyway, it is a lot of positive type, like cheerful, happy, non-threatening stuff, because I was trying to go for that angle of trying to appeal to them and saying like, hey, I want to work for your company, get me a job, I'll be nice to you. But then around 2020, when I got rejected for the Lego Masters show on Fox, that kind of went out the window, and it's like, okay, I'm not going to work for this company. Who cares? I'm just going to do my own thing. So I went for an edgier path. That's when I made the Bort Sampson video where, spoiler alert, they all die.
That must have felt good to broach that line, I guess.
That was kind of like, in wrestling speak, that was like turning heel. It's almost like, if anybody understands wrestling speak, there's like kayfabe. A babyface is like when a wrestling character is positive and they're like the hero for the characters, and like the heel is like the designated bad guy. So like Hulk Hogan was a babyface character, but then like in the 90s, his popularity died, so they made him into a heel character. So he became like Dark Hulk Hogan. So
in the NWO. I remember that.
Exactly, NWO, exactly. So for me anyway, I turned heel back in 2020 when I got rejected from the show on Fox. So it's like, screw this crap. I'm not going to work for the company anymore. I don't care. So I'm going to do like dark stuff. People are going to die in my animations. I'm going to have Barney the dinosaur commit suicide. Stuff like that.
Did that feel like thrilling for you?
It was, but I got a lot of backlash because of it too, because people weren't expecting it, and then now I just kind of gravitate back and forth. I really don't know anymore.
Yeah, I think that's a good medium. Just kind of play the field with both.
I can imagine it's like frustrating also to just kind of keep like acting in a certain way with that carrot in front of you, being like, okay, maybe one day if I set myself up this way, and then it doesn't happen. It's like, why am I doing
That's the thing too, because it's kind of like, because at that point I was like, you know what, I'm probably not going to work for this company anymore. Plus also the guy who invited me to visit the Lego place in Connecticut, he doesn't talk to me anymore. He actually unfollowed me all across social media. The guy, and also he no longer. Well, I don't know the whole story behind it, but I think they fired him back in like 2017 or so. Like he no longer works there, and then he sold his entire collection. He's not even a fan of Lego anymore, and he unfollowed me on Instagram and Twitter. He's no longer a fan of Lego anyway.
Damn.
And also the guy's a huge liberal too. Like the guy would unironically like retweet like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and shit like that. So. He probably saw that, I was like liking tweets from like, Nick Rekieta, Mr. Medicare. So obviously he probably thought like, I'm a chud, so to speak.
It may have been too, like obviously we don't know the circumstances, but like some people in that situation, if you're like dedicating your whole life to this, you're working there, and then you get let go, or like something happens.
That's probably what happened.
You want to cut off,
because like I said,
a Lego, and you were a Lego guy in his eyes.
That's probably what happened. Mm-hmm. But he was an employee there. He met me on social media. He invited me to come up there and see him. We hung out there that time, and then like a couple years later, I think they laid him off, or he got fired or something. And then he stole his entire collection and stopped talking about it on social media. And then he unfollowed me.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it was good.
Oh well, it's just you didn't lose any connection, I guess, with there. It's just like I was gonna do something like that at some point. So.
I mean, plus right now, I have a really good positive career trajectory working in finance. Because, like I said, because back at the time that I was hired, when I first visited the Lego place back in 2015, I was working this really crappy freelance job that I hated, and I was trying to quit. That's why I wanted to work for Lego so bad. But then in 2017, I got a job at Goldman Sachs, if you can believe that, it was like a contractor. And from there on in, I've been working exclusively in finance ever since then. I worked for Bank of America, Citibank, and right now I work for Bank of New York, which is a really great job. And so right now I've been working in finance for the past 5 years now, and it's only been getting better from here. So now I kind of scrapped the whole idea of working for my favorite toy company. I don't want to work for Nintendo anymore at this point. I just kind of want to do my own thing. Now that I guess reality kicked in, so to speak.
Yeah.
But also,
your aspirations just got more realistic, I guess, is what you're saying.
I mean, the thing is, though, I am a graphic designer. When I was in high school, I said I will become a graphic designer for a big company someday, and I will live in a big city. Spoiler, I accomplished it all. But now it's like, okay, but beggars can't be choosers. I can't work for Lego, I can't work for Nintendo, I can't work for I don't know, Disney, whatever. But it's like, a bank is good enough for me. The salary's great, the job's cool, I get along with my coworkers. It's 2 blocks away from where I live, everything's fine.
Yeah, I think also that there's like a romanticism about being like that starving artist trying to make it, and like your baseline is pretty rough. But then once your baseline becomes like a really well-paying job, stable, you have a lot of good perks, then why would you even need to leave that?
That's the thing too. Because like I said, what I do for a living, I'm a graphic designer, multimedia specialist for a bank. My job is, which translates to editing PowerPoint decks. And editing videos for company presentations. It's very, very basic. It's basically like my boss will have a video, like a meeting of them doing like a 2-hour meeting, a seminar about blockchain technology. They'll give it to me and say, can you chop out parts of this and add an intro at the end of it and tack on an outro and then upload it and then give it to us and we'll upload it. And that's it. That's all it is. Mostly just working with Premiere and stuff.
That's kind of like a job that people would leave their jobs to do. Like that's a dream job in itself.
Oh yeah, it's a great. I mean, it can be very stressful sometimes. Because you work in finance, so it's very, very fast paced and everything. But aside from that though, it took me a long time to get here. It was a very good job. I'm very thankful for it. And like I said, when 10 years ago, I had tunnel vision. I was like, one of these days I'm going to work for Nintendo. I'm going to work for Lego. I'm going to do one of these things. I'm going to move to California and work for Lucasfilm. Who knows? But then now that reality kind of kicked in, it's like, you know what? You're actually not going to. Just work with what you currently have now and just see what happens. And I got the job at Goldman Sachs as an entry-level graphic designer, and that paved the way for Bank of America, Citibank, and now my current job.
And when you grow older too, you realize there's a lot of other sources of happiness outside of your dream job. It's not just job. That's the end goal.
It's compromises too.
That's right. And I wanted to ask one more thing, Baron, before I let Briss ask his questions. How do you like living in Manhattan?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It would have been a lot cooler 10 years ago. When I first moved into the New York Metro back in 2010, I lived in Jersey City for a while, lived in Brooklyn, lived in Queens. And I moved to Manhattan back in 2020 during the pandemic because I got a really good deal. It's not worth it anymore. 10 years ago, it was, I would have been living like a king because with my salary and everything. Because 10 years, if I made as much money as I do now back in 2010, I would seriously be living like a huge luxury condo with a hot tub and stuff like that. Nowadays, I can barely afford a studio in my neighborhood because prices are so out of control now.
If only you lived in the Midwest, man.
Yeah,
that's right. So there's still time, Baron. But the other thing too is what is the location itself worth it for those compromises in terms of even saying I live in New York City and having access to all these kind of really worldwide attractions? Is it worth it to be living in a smaller place for the price you pay, kind of thing? Because
10 years ago, yes, without a doubt. Nowadays, I could be doing this back in Lancaster. It's not worth it anymore.
Sure. Well, thank you for answering my question. Bryce, go ahead.
All right, so we already know that you want me to play the Chip and Dale game on NES for the overlay, and I know that you were doing that as a joke, but I'm willing to play that. But okay, so off the top 3 favorite NES games.
Okay, without a doubt, Super Mario Brothers 3. Like that is like the gold standard of all video games. Super Mario Brothers 3.
Mario World Team.
Okay, what's your number 2 and 3?
2, I would say Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, made by Capcom. It's basically it's like Disney meets Mega Man.
Okay.
Yeah. And number 3, that's a doozy right there. I'm trying to think here. I had a lot of favorite NES games as a kid. We had a lot of secondhand ones too, like ones that we buy used at yard sales and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Mario 2 would be like the obvious one, but there's, what?
Like Doki Doki Panic.
Well, yeah, that's kind of a gray one right there.
Okay.
But Mario World.
Mario World was Super Nintendo.
Yeah, we're talking about just NES.
Classic old school NES.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think here, because actually there's a bunch of games that I played a lot because like I said, I was poor, so we can only afford certain games. So if your parents bought you a game and it sucked, you had no choice but to play it anyway. Like,
yeah.
Actually, AVGN talks about that because back in the day, games cost a lot of money. So if your parents bought you like one game, and that was like one really shitty game, and it was like an LJN game, you were stuck with it, and that was the only game you could play, and you had to memorize it and just learn how to beat it because that's your only game. That's what we had. We had.
It was like that. It was like that with Top Gun for me, and I actually really like Top Gun. That game is actually pretty cool once you figure out how to play it.
Once you figure it out.
It's actually a and then go ahead. Sorry,
I was gonna say two games that I played extensively. I played the shit out of these games back when I was like 8 and 9, and they were two of the worst games ever. And actually, Angry Video Game Nerd actually reviewed both these games, and they both absolutely suck. But I played them extensively as a kid. Number one was the Rocking Bullwinkle game. That is without a doubt one of the worst games you could ever play. The Rocking.
Have you ever seen Mike Matei play it?
No, but I saw the AVGN thing where he talks about it.
So that's Mike Matei's footage.
Okay, I might be confusing then.
Yeah. Mike Matei records the footage for AVGN, and then. But I was just asking if you ever heard, seen a live stream of him play it, because it's fucking hilarious. It's amazing. Check it out sometime. Anyway, go ahead.
It's actually you take damage from attacking enemies. It's so ass backwards. It doesn't make any sense because you have a health bar, but you lose health if you're playing as Rocky. You take health as you fly, and if you're playing as Bullwinkle, whenever you hit an enemy and you kill them, you take damage for that too. It makes not a lick of sense.
It's moral injury, man. You kill yourself every time you hurt another human being.
And the other shitty game that I played the fuck out of was the Incredible Crash Dummies. That was
he did a video on that too.
Yeah, he did a video on that.
One.
That was you guys might, I don't know if you guys remember or not. That was a very, very bizarre. I had all the toys for that too. I still have them.
I remember that toy line. I remember the Crash toy line.
Yeah. It was a series of public service announcements back in the 80s and 90s about, crash test dummies that would tell you to buckle your safety belts, and then they would get into a car accident and they would fly through the windshield. It was really crazy.
And there was a 90s cartoon about it too.
Yep. Well, actually, there was a made-for-TV CGI movie which I had which I actually still have on VHS. I watched the hell out of that thing. But they had a toy line and they had a video game, and the video game completely sucked balls. But I played it every day anyway because I had no choice. There's an LJN game, by the way, too, so it was impossible to play.
I was that way with in particular Fester's Quest and
Fester's Quest.
Yeah, Fester's Quest is actually really good. It's like Master Blaster.
Oh my god, yeah. When AVGN did the Fester's Quest video, I was dumbfounded. I was like, wait, that was a cool game. I like Fester's Quest.
It's the same thing with Top Gun. Like, actually, when you figure out how to play it, it's a really good game.
Yeah, it sounds like a coping mechanism.
Fester's Quest has its flaws. It's hard to play. But when you figure out what you're doing, it's actually very fun. Like you have the gun that shoots stuff, and you're fetching.
You have the dynamite. The dynamite's the best part.
But I remember Fester's Quest. I remember we rented that when I was about 8 years old from Blockbuster. We rented it, and I loved that game. I thought the music. Actually, the best part was the music. I thought the music was cool.
Yeah. And I even like the first person perspective, like going through the hallways. Like
I remember that.
The little power up you get. I think James actually highlights that. It's a power up you get like really early on, and it's one of those games that's, in my opinion, it's really easy to reset if you make a mistake, because it's not that hard to get to the other side of the pavement where you have to go through the sewers and everything. You got to talk to Wednesday and Pugsley and everything. I don't know. It's a really good game.
Yeah, I remember when I was like in first or second grade, kids at school were talking about it, and then they were like, "Oh, you got to play Fester's Quest," and then my mom rented for me at Blockbuster, and I remember like, okay, it's hard, but I like it, and the music was cool. I like the soundtrack. That was cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't want to dwell on that too long. What is the first movie you remember seeing like as a kid, like the most the most distinct one, like that you remember like watching at like 3 years old, 2 years old, whatever?
It's probably The Wizard of Oz or Alice in Wonderland. I had them on VHS when I was a kid, and I used to watch them all every day, like Alice in Wonderland, Willy Wonka, the Transformers movie, RoboCop.
Oh, Transformers.
Yeah.
The Transformers movie was not something that I watched until later, but for me, definitely, I want to say the Basil of Baker Street movie, what is it? The Great Mouse Detective, Basil.
Yeah.
That movie was like, I used to have nightmares about that movie over Fidget the Bat. Like that bat used to haunt me in my nightmares. Like when I was like 2 years old. Like that movie and
the original Ghostbusters, the first one, that one scared the fuck out of me when I was like.
Are you talking about the Filmation one?
No. I mean not Filmation, but I mean the original 1984 Ghostbusters.
Okay.
Yeah.
With Bill Murray, right?
Yeah, Bill Murray.
Was it that ghost in the first like 10 minutes of the movie that comes in the library?
No, the Gozer. I mean, I forgot the name. I'm drawing a blank here. The dog statues. Gozer. No, it's not Gozer. It's Vince Clortho, I think it was. But like the dog statues that come to life and they chase after.
Oh shit.
Rick Moranis, his character.
Lewis.
His name was Lewis. His name was Lewis something. But there's like dog statues that come to life and they chase after him. That scared me. I was like 3, and it terrified me. But Ghostbusters 2, I had that on VHS when I was a kid. I used to watch it like every day as well. That came out when I was like in kindergarten.
I think I missed out on Ghostbusters. I was there for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I think Ghostbusters was like kind of phasing out when I was a little kid, though.
Yeah. But
sad.
Back in the 80s though, VHS tapes were really expensive for the most part, so people would rent them pretty frequently. And especially Disney VHS tapes, they were released sporadically. Like you just couldn't go to the store and buy like Alice in Wonderland on VHS. They would only release it every now and then. Snow White actually wasn't released on VHS until the 90s. Back in the day, Snow White would be released in the theaters on like every 10 years.
Yeah.
For a short period, yeah.
I think it was like up to the 90s is when they actually started doing the VHS stuff.
Because I remember my older sister, who's about a year older than me, she saw it in the theater when she was, I think it came out in theaters, and I think they showed it in theaters back in like 85. So I was like a baby at the time, but my sister saw it in the theater. My mom took her to see it, and then they released it again back in the mid 90s, and we saw it in the theater together. I was maybe like 10 at the time, and then they came out with it on VHS. But it was like a once every every decade they would show it in the theaters, and it was the original Snow White.
I guess I had bootlegs because I had a bootleg of Brave Little Toaster.
I had that too, yeah.
And also Song of the South.
I was actually going to say that I had a bootleg of Song of the South too. I didn't know that it was bootleg. I had no idea, because remember my stepdad was telling me about it. He's like, yeah, you can't buy this in stores. I'm like, why not? And he's like, because it's bootleg. He was telling me about it. I had Song of the South.
I was gonna say, we've gone quite a little while. Do you want to try to wrap it up, or do you want to keep going?
I'm saying, I'm sorry. I could do this forever. But yeah, we can wrap this up. Maybe we can do a part 2 sometime.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
Hopefully, my
we could even just do it like we're just shitting the shoot,
Yeah, that's right. And Bryce, did you have any other like last minute ones? Rapid fire? You want to fire off on this one?
No, because I think if I do that, it's just going to make this go on for longer.
Yeah, that was Bryce's rapid fire.
Yeah. If there's anything you want to close with, anything you want to advertise that you're doing, Baron.
Oh yeah. Well, because honestly, though, right now it's actually a very strange time in my personal life right now, because I'm trying to move out. So the past few months I've had strictly tunnel vision for trying to find a new apartment. So that's why I haven't made any major Lego creations or animations since like around like February or March. So I've been strictly focused on trying to find a new apartment, because my lease expires in a little bit. So I've been almost exclusively doing like, normie type stuff as opposed to doing fun stuff. With that said, though, when I get settled into my new apartment this summertime, hopefully, I do want to release a stop-motion Lego animation that's going to chronicle the rise and downfall of an abandoned coal mining town back in Pennsylvania. So look out for that.
Badass.
All
right. I have been Briss, and we have been interviewing the Baron Von Brunk, and this is the most excited I've been in weeks. Kandor, you got anything you want to say?
Nope, absolutely not. But look forward to the next Measly Few podcast, and hopefully we'll have Baron coming back now that we've had his origin story established. We can shoot the shit with him in the future for sure.
We can talk about bootleg VHS tapes some more, because I had plenty of
that shit. Please, I am totally down for that. Listen, I got way too much to say about that. Don't even get me started. We're gonna have to do it like, all right, Measly Few 9. VHS tapes. Let's go.
I'm in. Nico, what about you or Willy? Do you guys have anything you want to plug?
Go follow me on Twitter, buy my art, give me money.
Who in the hell are you again?
He's the epic artist.
I'm just some gay artist.
Bunny guy? Bunny dude?
Yeah, just some gay artist that draws bunnies.
Alright,
Okay,
so
Nico,
Willy, I need to ask you a
Nico.
question, Willy. Have you deleted any...
Oh,
Have you deleted any videos?
recently, no.
Alright, go follow Willy too.
Yeah, follow Willy.
I'm trying,
Epic content.
yeah.
He's doing a good job. Thank you, Willy, for your epic content.
You're welcome. I gotta go. Bye.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. We've been the Measly Few. You have been the Measly Fewer, and we will see you in the next one. Peace out.
Peace.
Take care, kids.
Bye, Baron. Thanks for coming on.
No problem.
Oof.
Oof.
No.
No, don't say it after he leaves.
Oh.
Alright, I guess that's good then.